Good afternoon and welcome to the Riverfront Advisory Committee meeting of May 18th, 2026. First item, Pledge of Allegiance. We'll open the floor for public comment. So, no one here, we'll close the public comment period. Item number 3, review and approval of the minutes from last meeting, April 13th, 2026. All in favor? Yes. So we have, or I guess, two new members as of last meeting. Jessica Gans, conservation charge. And the 7th member today, whose first meeting is today. So. To look at anything else. So I think our kind of primary business today is identifying our kind of next steps. So
I have a few of my own. Or do you want to add anything?
What you have in front of you is I took some of those items off the irritation matrix and put it into a working set. And I think the objective for this meeting is to, as close as possible, finalize what that work plan would be. Before time. The idea is to do it all, to do it document, so do an inspection every quarter maybe, just make sure that the priorities are the same or they shifted and where they need to be. So that's what this sheet's for. And then kind of our another working out the implementation guide through the years. And so again, this exercise is to identify what our priority is. This is how it's specific.
I wrote down. What's on your list? Been a pretty good initial.
I think it's taking it further. Don't really have that discussion. Just what are the action items? Things next to the really fast before we get that. So doesn't mean we can't do it now, but not too much pressure on anyone. But I figure a good thing is prioritization and then what action.
I like it. I kind of think, for input, but potentially kind of discussion connected that let's add anything to that list. I guess, top item is Anson Sunset Plan for Chandler Park. Obviously that is kind of core. I didn't make anything. Also, that falls into a little bit of a later bucket for the work. SRF.
I guess
Bart, on the concept of like the comprehensive plan, does the town have a timeline? That's something that's
So we have a couple opportunities. Yes. Together, phase plan, for Shannon Park, development. One is, kind of the community outreach aspect of it, master planning, so, the other is the technical stuff. So phase one, the outreach, kind of development of the overall plan, so we can make there. And then phase two is the, identification of this initiation and then all the engineering work. So, we had a draft proposal of what that would cost. And so, we'll share that with you, probably, or maybe in July, that's going through this process, but, long and short is, the first phase, it's going to be probably around 80. But we have some opportunities, right now for grant. Right now it's also in the secret, yes. We can apply for 40,000. So we're thinking about doing that. And this is just preliminary numbers from DHT, so it's not set in stone, but it kind of gives a rough idea of what it's going to cost. So what we're thinking about is, apply for that, which is due, I think, in June. So we're working with SRPC right now to put together a grant application. I do the full ask. And then number two would be local budgeting process. So what we have in our capital reserve funds, working with potentially, to see if there's any things we need to do there. And then once we figure out what that difference is, and go to so
we're probably
looking,
if we were to get the
grant money from
DES, that would probably be distributed to early 27, I think.
Yeah, so I think the governing council will probably sign off on it if we were to be rewarded in November, December. So then, that would give us, probably December, February, when we start doing that. And also, it doesn't mean we can't do anything right now to offset costs. So maybe something we can do in the interim to help reduce the amount of money that DHB has budgeted. So that's something we can look into in further detail. But sorry.
The acronym DHB, is that what that is?
It's an engineering firm.
Engineering?
DHB. Yeah.
DHB?
Yeah.
Okay.
D as in Victor, H as in
And it's an engineering firm?
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So the town's contracting, town's ideas pop up and have them develop proposals for it. So, and they've been part of this whole Chandler Park experience a little bit. So they help us with that first proposal resiliency grant and putting up a phase, like what the project
would cost our preliminary numbers, so they're more change. That's all for the master plan. Yeah, and then So phase 2 is much more, but that's being covered mostly through the principal forgiveness grant in the state. So that's where, with the town meeting, they authorize us to borrow, which will be forgiven. Revolving fund. So that part's taken care of. So that's what we're looking
So that's not really new. At this point, you don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be investigated through the money that has been secured that in the process. So that's moving forward. So we'll understand our existing conditions. In the interim, we want to have this community initiative engagement to develop a full version of the project.
And it's kind of, we don't know what the exact all of that is built in. You just don't have to track.
Yes, we don't know what that is. We're working towards that. So that money is going to be distributed to the as well. So it's kind of, we're going to be so as we're doing the initial investigations, the identifying existing conditions, and up, we are doing some engagement with public. And then by this time next year, maybe we'll later in the summer or 27, which will be fiscal year 2008, we'll have a concept of be more fleshed out, the engineering, we'll have our existing conditions, probably all laid out by then.
And just another part of that big picture is the sort of some of the broad pictures of what
Not necessarily. I think we want to revisit it as part of the concept. But it's something that we've done before. But again, we want to see if there was a process.
I'm not saying set in stone, but there's nothing really placed on it.
No, not at all. I think one of the concepts for shred is, the purpose. They can be used reclaim space, like a platform, like say the box over there, go underneath, the box more flow, great, and then gain more space as a part. So again, yep, exactly. So it's kind of like more focused on Shannon Park in that area. What do we do with that land? Who do we want to become? Yeah, I was talking to Lindsay about that. So, what we have access, we potentially have access. This is where we're gaining because everyone has interest. John has interest in the sewer infrastructure. Amy has interest in the recreational opportunities. And then Lindsay has interest in stormwater. I'm not saying that that's their fund, but ones that they administer for the stormwater. So between those three accounts, coastal resiliency grant, and revolving fund from the state, should be able to probably bring this together. So there's yeah, right. I'm not going to speak for you, but based on the conversation, there's an opportunity for something we need to get done shortly. And kind of understand what the funding is, and we could access it. Yeah, we didn't create the fund. Yeah, we just created the coastal resiliency. That is because we thought it might be redundant and could be placed into existing funds, especially for that area. I think as we move forward in time and we see the need for other areas of town along those funds, it's something that we could do with what we have existing. Then, kind of procedurally, we could create contracts with the funds that we can. So for the stormwater, it has to have stormwater.
That's an opportunity. And then I could potentially use some of my fund as well for the master plan, probably make an argument for that. Which is an opportunity. So,
Because I think on the short term, we've identified, that the memorial bench is kind of right in the middle of an area where people like to congregate for when there's, entertainment and music and stuff. I didn't know if there was the ability to just kind of move that more towards the flagpole, and then there's a shrub that there was one on the other side that's been removed. So, I mean, I think just those two simple things like that would really, once the public starts using it, they're going to say, oh, this is, I think if you do low-hanging fruit and smaller things to show that there's going to be some development, it really, resonates with the public when they're down there. So
yeah, I think it'll dovetail nicely in the next conversation. Mm-hmm. But yes, if we can do that. I think, I understand what's going to happen next. That the Riverfront Advisory Committee will advise maybe DPW and say, hey, look, is there opportunities here to move this bench here, or do some plantings here, and then
is there a point person from DPW for this kind
so
of?
Karen,
Yeah, so that, and I think it kind of falls between, I guess, line 1 and line 2, but that's one of the things I've written down was like a day 1 park maintenance plan. Because I think the town has kind of been in a little bit of an awkward standoff with responsibility. If that is potentially resolved within a matter of a couple weeks here via those council resolutions, and it's more clear that, okay, DPW is now responsible for this. What are some things? Because there's parts of the walkway need some love. Like there's probably like 10 to 12 items of just like clean up and like repair.
Exactly. Yes.
I think are warranted.
Yes.
And that could be developed, advised out of here with Concom's buy-in as well. And ultimately kind of put to the town. When you have time, you can do these things.
Yes. That's a good idea.
So anyways, that's what my first crack at this was the 6 items again taken from the implementation matrix. It seems like some folks have maybe some additional items, so I'm not sure if you want to go over that thing or just have a discussion on what's here.
Let's go through this because then I think naturally anything else might come out of it, like that maintenance plan. Because honestly, that could go under either line 1 or frankly even under line 2. Develop plan and DPW to guide maintenance is basically that, of just like, maybe that was a more long-term statement, but I think just like initial of like, hey, these are the things that we try to maintain, or things I know Concom has targeted in the past for just trying to maintain that space a little bit. But couple that with a couple of the things that might need more of like a crew day or 2 to actually address and correct.
Yes. Great. So I think another Just an update, we selected a contractor for our wayfinding and branding, so there's going to be public engagement events. So I think, this could be very helpful, especially in the Riverfront section, helping facilitate those discussions. So that'll probably happen in this fall as well, this late summer, fall. So just FYI.
Will that contractor come before our committee at all?
Yep, so come for this meeting. The ones I have teed up are this committee, public transportation, and then council.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I know that's something you talked about kind of previously. But yeah, starting to kind of make those uniform things, that would be a nice touch.
That identify key locations, yeah. So and that kind of will help with the, let me see. Like the number 5, developing the network. As we, doing the signage, it's identifying key locations where we want signage. That will lead us to think about how do we want the network to improve or expand as we think about the waterfront area. So again, there's a lot of synergies here. Well,
Can I go back to the maintenance plan for
Sure.
a second? I'm just curious, just to use what Betsy mentioned, the kind of changes you think there would be immediate improvement, and I assume others as well. Is there any process that, that DPW would want to have for, I don't know, to cut down invasives and some things doesn't require public input. If you start taking down trees and stuff like that, is that something that you kind of have to have a plan and
I think it's just when should they come to the Riverfront Committee for advice? The advice, and then meanwhile, what's okay with them doing the maintenance? So I think it's just us come up with that. What are those thresholds? And say this is what we think the threshold should be, and then we just go from there. Because I think the last thing we want is more delays, less efficiency. So, but also we want to make sure there is some kind of input when there's changes that are a little more significant than just routine maintenance.
How about just for like how something like that could feel or land with DPW? Like I think us and potentially conservation commissioners would see it as helpful of hey, here's a roadmap or some things we targeted in the past for maintenance or we've never done because we weren't sure about X, Y, or Z. But does that come across clunky or heavy-handed with DPW if we just immediately kind of hand them what to do list?
I think it's more let me work with DPW to put something together, and then we present it to you all.
Okay.
And then we have that.
I think I'd say, if we just kind of make a list of things that we like done, the walkway, move the bench, there's that plaque for Chet's Weir, move that. Just make a list and say, hey, Rick, what can you do? So that talk with Rick, and then I come back and say, Betsy brought up the thing that Rick even have the staff to do some of the stuff that we want done.
Yeah, so that's why maybe meet with them first and see what capacity is currently. And then I think meanwhile we can maybe the next meeting come up with a list. And then
From then we probably make a list right now.
Well, I think we're close, but I do think we should. I would ask Concom as well because there's been multiple work days. So all right, what are some of the passive maintenance things that we've done on those? I think we can solicit input from us, but there's a couple other key people I think
Amy, with any of that.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, if a couple of folks a chance to win, like, it's not really a chance, but now's a good time as we're kind of trying to.
Amy is the director of the rec.
I think it's the promote the checklist.
Yeah.
So, here's the, routine maintenance, items, we would, just be checked on. And then, if there any major work to be done, we would like to advise, at least review it. And then, so it's just coming up with what that checklist is. Because at the end of the day, it's just maintaining, what's there, and then what improvements you would like to see as well. So,
Is that big stand of knotweed still there?
Was that on the other side of the?
It's on the bank, the far bank of the, from you on the, things like that, you just want to get out of it anyway, under any circumstance. So if any of those things can kind of be picked off, just.
Yeah, and I'm not sure with the Rosa Rugosa, that's not considered invasive on coastal waterways. So I don't know if it's Rosa or if it's that Virginia rose. That's something to think about as well.
Yeah, and this is like exactly why I would want to solicit input from a few other folks, because there's a reason that they have a whole problem. Again, I think it's because primarily the best way to do it is herbicide, which I think also has a problem with.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that has that, and I think you almost, especially with knotweed, they even the environmental agencies tend to do something called clip and dip. So that's where you want to have conversations, threshold. It doesn't use a lot of herbicide, but if you don't go down to the roots and kill that, it's really hard.
Yeah. And you have to make sure you remove all those clippings because they will self-seed themselves.
Right.
Or self-propagate.
So there's expertise, but there's some of those things you just think that you don't have to wait until you do anything else. You just know there's something that needs to be done.
Do we want to go as far as to invite DPW for the next one, or maybe like work on trying to get a list together?
I think,
Next
talk
one,
to Lindsay.
talk to them
Yeah,
later.
and we can work with Karen.
Yeah. It's like whatever the best message is. But yeah, I think we can kind of work on that over the next couple of weeks between the stuff we're all aware of and stuff others, I'm sure. Did you say a timeline, sorry, to get that signage contractor, like?
Yeah, we're going to sign a contract soon. We probably won't start till this probably July.
Okay.
Is this going to be signage for the entire town or specifically for?
Probably the more focus on the downtown area,
Okay.
but we are planning for the whole town.
Okay.
So to a little more detail on that. So right now we're just the branding will be for the whole town.
Okay.
And then the wayfinding aspect of it is going to be focused on the downtown.
Right. Okay.
And then, so we'll have a suite of sign options for decision makers to consider, and then for different situations. So, like for instance, for conservation or town-owned lands, what that look like, and then, information like parking and whatnot. So, facilities and Riverwalk. So there might be slight differences there. So, but I'll just go through this whole process. So that's the idea, and then we would have to, once we go through that process, we would have to start saving for fabrication. So.
What did you have in mind for the listening sessions, the private property communication? I know that was, a big topic of discussion like 6 months ago. There hasn't been as much since. Are we thinking like targeted audience, like select staff talk to certain people, or like?
I see that more as part of the kind of master planning like for Shandon Park, is they're so tied together. So I guess it's kind of iterative or duplicative in a way, because the idea, my thought was that these two items are tied really close, and then and then we would want to bring them back into the conversation because, or invite them back to have a discussion on what is the vision for the waterfront area. Shandon Park's part of that, but there's other stakeholders. And since they're the closest to Shandon Park, we want to make sure that their voices are heard. So, because there's, how do you get, you think of Shandon Park as the focal point, but then the network that leads to Shandon Park. There's many ways to get there. We want to make sure that we're accommodating for all networks, and then also making sure that everyone has an opportunity to give input on how they would like the waterfront to change over time. So we could even consolidate those if you want to get rid of something off the list.
Yeah, I incorporate downtown Riverfront, townwide regional recreation, trail planning, river walk, all things I think we're super interested in. I think, yeah, probably, I'll be very interested to hear what like the town's signage wayfinding contractor has to say about like commonalities versus separate task items, because that is well outside my personal will.
Well, just for your information, we selected Liz Durkee, so she's very
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah, excellent.
informed of our unique situation.
That's great to work with.
Yeah.
I think that's a great choice, honestly. So develop and formalize a policy for integrating climate resilience, capital improvement plan, project review process, or criteria. So I know we kind of both passed the quiz. Is that talking about like actually kind of defining and applying it, or is that something else?
I think it's more to other reserve accounts. So like through the CIP process, having that criteria there for their review. So the idea is we would, in the request sheets, would add this component to it and get requesters thinking about, okay, is this do I need to consider climate resiliency with this capital improvement project? If so, okay, this is how we're accommodating for it. So I think it's just more potentially us as a group thinking about what specifically we want them to think about. Is there a kind of 5 bullet points or whatnot, that we would like them to consider answering when requesting money. That was my thought.
One of the things I would like to do, the pumping station has to be moved up higher for coastal resiliency, right? We can use that as, and that opens up that area for Shandon Park development. So should that be a priority or something that we can start working on?
It is, and I think the town's answer would be you are working on it through the wastewater planning grant.
Yes,
Or seeking the wastewater plan.
we're seeking opportunities. We're moving towards that. So we're having initial conversations about that.
So there's nothing that we should be pushing at this point.
At this
All
point.
along.
No, it's on our radar. It's a funding. I mean,
I was just thinking maybe it's something we can help kind of like push.
no, I think right now, because I think there's a momentum towards that idea. So another thing that we've been working with DES and the Woods Hole Institute, doing some modeling. I think I talked about this last time at 2 meetings, but I don't remember, so I
Yes.
apologize. But basically, they're going to be showing different climate storm models and how a storm would affect downtown, so they just do it iterative, hundreds of different times, of weather events and how it would affect the area. And it's showing that area of downtown waterfront being affected. So point being is we understand that it's in the flood zone, and we are building towards the opportunity to move it.
So I just thought maybe we could help it along, get it.
No,
It's been 4 years where it was time to get there.
Well, isn't the way that sort of, when you were talking about the parallel plans and the sort of the hardware and all of the infrastructure associated with it, and some of what we're supposed to do, the parallel part is you don't want to totally plan out what you're going to do down there before you've started to come up with concepts and get public input about the general ideas, and trying to mesh those two processes at different points. Am I close? Or?
Yeah, and then the other aspect of this too is it's gravity fed that sewer line. So understanding what we can do. Are there opportunities that, okay, can we actually even move it? So I'm sure you could with enough money, but again, would it be feasible and realistic? So that's where the investigation comes in. So there's a lot of moving parts working together, but probably not to the taste that we would like.
I cannot agree with you more. I wouldn't speak for Lindsay in her absence, but speaking from experience, what I believe the master plan for the item is get the free money through the SRF program to investigate it, put it in the wastewater master plan, both the feasibility of moving the pump station and addressing the gravity feed into it. Because then once you've done that, and it's time to move out of a $100,000 investigation phase into like a $3 to $80 million construction phase, you can show your funding people as part of your capital planning and your wastewater planning, and we have this is a priority for these reasons, and you can leverage it for the construction funding. So it's more to not only try to address like a relatively cheap aspect now, it's to be able to get a lot of the higher cost offset later. So like that's, I'm with you 1,000%. I wish it was done 2 years ago, but like the path that the town is on is correct. It's
Just again, there's maybe something where we give a little more push out of it.
But I think what Bart said is right. I mean, every conversation I've had, and the joking times I run into Sean at other events, I keep busting him about it, and I do think the momentum is there. Like, I think there's an understanding that is the right way for the town to go.
That's an opportunity. I think we see the opportunity. Things are aligning, they're working together towards that. So I think we're all in the same mindset. Still working what we have. The processes that we must follow.
We had talked a while ago, and I can guess at what meeting it was, about potentially putting together, supporting, like a CIP project development for 2027, which would be this year. It kind of feels like with the authority to borrow on the SRF and the Riverfront Development Plan, we already discussed that there's nothing that's to be advanced.
Not right now.
I'll share that opinion.
Yeah, I share that because we don't know exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think what we can do is we submit that coastal resiliency grant, do a recommendation. So actually that might be something that you can vote on tonight. Just so if there's some kind of minutes, endorsing it, the idea. But,
I think we did the letter too. Previously.
Yeah. So just on the record that you support a letter, something to that effect. I think that would help bolster the application. I think right now it might be premature, and then maybe that's something we work towards for fiscal year 28, because we're still in the investigative period and community engagement phase, or at least we haven't done that yet. So So I think there's some elements that there might be, that maybe we could move a little further. But, you know, I think it's just a cart before the horse. We just need to do the engagement and investigation. And I think that's where we are, so I think we're stuck in that. Stuck, but we need to work through that before we can.
You or Lindsay have sort of a layout of when, you know, when these grants are going to be, you know, when you're going to do the ancient, you know, when all of these things are expected to be decided on. How does that lay out?
When SRF gives the funds, I think it's the next year this time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the applications are due June 1st.
Yeah.
The project priority list will come out late July, early August, where you would be invited to submit the full application, which is usually like September. But then it has to go to governing council. So you're basically talking January for that as well.
Do people internally to Newmarket have an idea of what that looks like, what's going to be documented, or we really won't know what?
Yeah, VHB's put together what that project phase it would look like for phase 2.
Okay.
So the investigative portion of it.
So
we
there
have
is a
timeline.
document where
It's just
somebody
draft.
can look at that.
Yeah, it's just draft right now, and Lindsay wasn't comfortable sharing it right now because it's still in draft. So,
That's okay.
but we will share with the committee once it's a little more fleshed out.
That'll make conceptually that'll make it a lot easier.
Exactly.
To understand what we're looking
Yeah.
at and what we should be working on at what point in time. As we did.
Returning to the connectivity thought for a bit, I don't know the current status of the property, but is there still any potential opportunity for easement from Bay Road into the Heron Plain property?
We haven't investigated it further. We haven't really pursued it. Yeah. Is there an opportunity? Sure.
Well, I guess the question is, it might come down to a financial matter. Does the town plan or have any desire to pursue it?
Not at this time.
Okay.
We haven't really brought it up, I think, since last time we discussed it, but no. I think our focus now is more on the Shannon Park area. We did, I think that's where signage is going to come into, play the wayfinding. Potentially, you know, on the Bay Road parking lot, put some sort of signage, like, put it this way, working with a housing cooperative, Heron Point. Is there opportunities for signage, you know, put this way to access. So I think that will be the extent of it at this point in time, unless an opportunity arises. But none has yet to surface.
No, that's. I don't personally, I guess, view it as a major priority. There is the access to there and Wayne Estates or whatever. Just wasn't sure if it still existed.
There was a discussion about within Heron Point, the parking area within Heron Point. Is there an opportunity to move that potentially closer? We're discussing with, but. You know, does the easement allow, or the conservation area allow for us to reconfigure that parking and move it, you know, potentially where it's, you know, we can come up to a solution to allow the 8 feet open and park in there. If it's closer, you're not so far in, it's easier to monitor. At the same time, we want to be mindful of the residents there. So, but there was a discussion there. You know, is there an opportunity to mindfully relocate parking within the area, in the conservation area. I'll talk to the Conservation Commission about that, bring that up.
The only other item I have written down is, and maybe I don't know if the town talks to them on the regular, but trying to reopen a dialogue with Fish and Game, maybe lesser about the boat launch, but I'm thinking more for the area of that fish ladder and the dam.
Yep.
But honestly, like trying to open that dialogue a little bit more under the guys.
I think,
Yeah, I think that department or that, I guess department, not a fishing game, the leadership's changed there, and they have a new, I guess, division leader there.
Cherie's not there.
Cherie's not there anymore, so.
Right. And
Do you know who the new person is by any chance, Deb?
Renee.
Renee, okay. Do you have a contact? Okay, so I'll follow up with Dale, get that contact, and then maybe me and you, Dale, bring that dialogue, open that dialogue, and have a discussion. Are you going to see her this weekend? Probably. You going to be there, Renee?
She has been in the past, but she got a promotion. I don't know if she's going to do that, but that's Saturday.
Okay.
wasn't last night.
It's a good time to plug them in, so we'll plug it in. Is it, what do we call it, Heron Day? What do they call it?
I can't remember what, because Exeter is also really branding their herring.
When you say alewife, say alewife, but I think.
Yeah, well, alewife, yeah, herring. River herring.
I'm sorry, I missed. So what are you talking to Fish and Game about that?
So you know the park, where the fish ladder,
Yeah.
that area where the fish ladder is. Fish and Game have a lot of objections of that being turned into a park. Since they have, I forget the ownership, but I think Fish and Game owns the land fee, and then the Book Exchange building has these easements over that, which the town used to own, but when it got conveyed to that property. So anyways, so we're working with the property owner and Fish and Game to see if there's an opportunity to turn that into a park.
Durham Book is the property owner?
Correct.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, if the answer is still going to be no, or there's too much resistance or flack, but it seems like it's been a while and it's worth kind of for opinion to do something.
I think, Fish and Game had a lot of, it's a small area that they want to make sure it's secure, that there's nobody around there messing with things they shouldn't be messing with, and so I think that I was involved with some of those conversations, so I have vague memories of them, but that's basically, but it is a very different, people have changed too on Fish and Game side. So I think it would be helpful for us to think about it, or the town to be thinking about, what is it we really want to do there, and thinking about what Fish and Game is the lens that Fish and Game would use looking for that, how do you, because right now, in a way, I think it's one thing to say, we want that to be available for an event, like the Herring Day, where you're celebrating what comes through the fishway, that kind of thing. And you open it up for that purpose, but, do you really want people climbing on the upper part of the fish ladder? Or, what part of it do you want people to access, and how will that work?
And you made a good point too, it is a tight area.
Not that big.
Yeah.
Not that big. So I think if you come up with, here's what we can reasonably do without anybody feeling that this is crazy, or that it's just going to be a problem, it's more problems than it's worth for them, or whatever, then I think you can, because it is lovely to be in there. And say, wow, this is really nice, I'd like to be able to hang out there.
And like, I think that's the conversation, is like, it doesn't need to be like a new spot, you do like arts in the park, but like, can somebody physically walk out to like the overlook point? Like, is that allowed? Is there a set of circumstances or terms in which that is allowed?
Right. Well, because right now they have a fence with a gate on it, and they can open that up so they can get their truck in there, and they can have access to it. They don't necessarily want everybody to have access to it at any time they like to have it. So you have to have discussions where you realize that's what's going to be. And the other part that I think there's no encumbrance from Fish and Game. In other words, they don't really care. Right now, they used to call it the ice fishing landing. Yeah, by DPW, down by DPW, is another nice spot, and it certainly should be, if you're going to be doing ideas about walks, and where people might go and where people might want to go. It's not good, it's not of any use as a boat landing, but it is a nice spot. I think people in the neighborhood right now, it's the kind of, when you go down there, you'll see that there's old boats and kayaks that are, probably that they need to go to the transfer station. They're crashing, and there's no really controls about who leaves what there, I would imagine. It doesn't look like anyways. So that is a public space, and at least a lot of these you kind of inventory them and say, is there any way you can tie it together so that, and that would be part of the conversation with Fish and Game too. My understanding of where Fish and Game stood on that, whenever I was sort of aware that they were in conversation, was that, they don't have any use for that spot. Even though the last I knew, you went down there and you had like a kiosk set up in there for all the official landing spots. They go in and put signage up that's current for those kiosks, but it's irrelevant signage, and I think that would be something that if we had ideas, we'd not need to talk about Fish and Game, but it wouldn't be I don't think anybody would be looking, there wouldn't be any real disagreements about it. We just need a plan.
And so they asked the question again, so I feel like it's probably been 4 years at this point since the last time. So it's worth asking again.
I think it's definitely worth asking. I think it would be what we just would want to kind of frame what we're looking
Have
for.
a real ask, yeah,
Yeah.
not just speculative. That's fair.
I always thought of that area, it'd be good for a living shoreline, down there. Make it just kind of an observation.
Yeah, an education area for the living shoreline, because it would combine well with the area in front of the sewer plant, all of that. I mean, it does. That could be a real example of kind of
The two.
right. Climate resilience in action. You've got plenty of space to do that. A lot of it would be really useful to do in those places, and you're looking to adapt that in an environmentally friendly way. And I think Shanda Park in some way may have a living shoreline aspect to it, but we're also if we're going to put a lot of infrastructure in there, it's not like it can be just flooding anytime. If you're going to put hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever, into the infrastructure there, I don't think you can have it so that you expect it to inundate on a regular basis. A large part of that. Some of it, yes, but not all of it. And so that's where a lot of the, that's where the resiliency part of it is really kind of a big deal to start with. Because it used to be 2050, even when we started these conversations, 2050 seemed further away. You get 2030 and it's not going to seem that far away.
I would say for prioritizing things, that Fish and Game is like a low priority to me.
I think I'm with Sam on this. I think we have some work to do before we need to have the conversation with Sam, but it's not that far out. I think you want to, all this wayfinding, all the ideas of how you're going to use these spaces. If you had that plan of what we wanted to do and could figure out what that meant, then it would be a great time to go to Fish and Game and say, what are your input on what we might be able to do there, and how would you feel about that? And don't go any further until they tell you how they feel about it, because it would be hard to do it if they don't want you to do it.
So it's a loss.
Yeah. But if
so like maybe kind of like a short to medium term, but I think it's worth reapproaching at some point. is there anything on the action item list that is missing right now that is kind of screaming to somebody that it's missing right now? I mean, it's not that we can't add some later, but I'm just kind of curious. Also, just kind of give it some thought. I mean, I do think for for next time, maybe kind of think of some kind of concrete tasks and probably better kind of assigning said tasks and who kind of feels compelled to do what. I also think for next time, the park maintenance plan, just that thing. I fully solicit input. So everyone sends some ideas. We can start a thread or just write them down and we'll work it. I can reach out to AV and to Concom, to Zach and Ellen and ask them to join in as well. So I think that's a good thing we can do for next time. Like how when we try to clean up our
I'll update this for the meeting, and then we have discussion about this work plan, and then do the maintenance plan next meeting too.
Yeah, and I think I know Amy would ask for something every once in a while when Amy was having some event where, the one where she gets the movers and shakers in the town. And I think it would be nice, maybe when, something you could talk with Lindsay is, could we have a document that talks what we're working on and how it fits together. So if somebody says, what's happening, how does this coming together, what's going on? We know a lot of the elements, but we can't, it would be great to have that so that you could look at it, understand what the plan is, and sort of be able to verbalize that in a few words for somebody, it's like an elevator speech about this with a few concepts down there that kind of captures all of the things that are coming together.
Like that,
someday that might be like the executive summary of your comprehensive riverfront development plan, but knowing that might not exist for another year's time.
Right. A lot of these are conceptual, a lot of engineering has to go before you even have a plan. But you can talk about what we're thinking about. None of this is non-public. So if it's just organized a little bit, then it's going to be easier for somebody to kind of get the big vision about what we hope to see at the end of this plan.
In the interest of time, do we want to move on from this for today, come back to it next meeting? Because I think there's two administrative items I'd like to talk about. One being the town council resolution. I agree 100% with your email that if the resolution does not read, I think it should read DPW is in charge.
I don't think, I didn't CC everybody else.
Oh, okay. All right. So there may be some confusion on the language of the resolution that's actually on the town council. I think it says DPW.
I can explain.
Okay.
So the way it was written is that DPW do the maintenance, but it's more codified, and then permitting would have been transferred to this committee. There was some opposition to that from the town manager. And it was kind of, when I was writing the resolution, trying to understand what Concom's desires were, so I'm trying to, kind of meld it together. But it seems like that path forward is amending the resolution so that Concom, or Riverfront Advisory Committee is advising instead of doing the permitting. So the idea is you all meet once a month. That would hold up a lot of things potentially. Typically, municipal uses are exempt, but there might be some private individuals that would like to retouch that would have a way for approval. So the idea is to facilitate that better by creating a whoever the permitting agency would be, DPW or recreation, to have that responsibility. So,
So
yeah.
the amendment I was going to make is to specifically say that the permitting and the maintenance of the funds would be recreation department.
Yeah, that's,
Which I think makes sense.
makes sense.
And then, like Riverfront and Concom, I think for me, just advisory for things like the park maintenance plan. Yeah, basically, it's like continue to weigh in on things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can just say Riverfront because you have a Concom member, and then the Concom member can bring it back to conservation, and then bring that information back in.
I think that all one and same
Yeah.
part of the reason for expanding that activity. So yeah, I think your amended language.
I'll send everybody what the current language is and what it will be done. So that will be done at the June meeting that's actually is modified.
June.
I'll be-
The other business, okay.
Yeah, fine.
So Jessica has an issue with, she's the Conservation Commission person, appointment, and she has an issue with this being at 4 o'clock. Does the committee want to change our time meeting time?
I think I want to, maybe we just ask what it is. Is it like, was there an issue today? Is there an issue Monday to 4?
She
Forever.
stated she started a new job and that 4 o'clock would be difficult for her.
Okay.
And we just say, ask the Conservation Commission to appoint somebody else.
Yeah, let me, I think let's reach out to her and say like, all right, what is the scale of the problem?
Throw it in your hands and your.
Yeah, I think shut it for like immediate thing. I mean, like,
She had language in there about this is a brand new job.
yeah, it might just be like if today was like literally her first day, to not be like, hey, by the way, yeah, so like,
So it's.
yeah, I think I want to approach that. I mean, I laughed like years ago with like, instead of 4 o'clock on Monday time to begin with, but like, I don't know, I'm also a creature of habit, so like, I'd rather not change at this point. Come too far. I don't know if there's anything else.
Were we going to vote on a new, spokesman, on a chair?
Oh, yes. I did write that down. Thank you. What, because we changed the resolution, technically we need to elect the chair?
Yeah, I think with every new election, every year you have to do that.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, obviously, I kind of generally served in that role for a while, like, and have to do so, but I don't need to have a
I'd be
certain
happy
role on
to
it.
nominate you, Sam. I don't
I would be happy to second that nomination.
all in favor.
Aye.
I abstain. Avoid looking being.
Consider it done.
All right. No, much appreciated.
No, we appreciate it.
Yes, yes. Good, good.
Okay.
Should we, do we just want to reaffirm that the next couple of dates are the dates?
Yeah, that's probably worth it. So June 1st is actually a Monday, so that would make June 8th as the next.
There's something.
So it's June 8th and July 13th as is, just the way it falls on the calendar. Must be, is that June?
I will be out of town on the 13th of July.
As it stands now, I'm out of town on July 27th and August 3rd, so if it's held to the way the dates show up, I'm okay on both of July and August. But let's go back to June. Is June okay?
June is okay with me.
Yep, works with me.
June's fine with me as well.
So
Yeah, I think that's fine. Trying to remember what. The only potential thing I could see for potentially proposing it as June 15th instead is, I think Conservation Commission would be on the 11th, so I don't know, like, if Zach or Ellen or whatever would be out, like, comfortable putting their input to, like, a maintenance plan without it being discussed at their committee or their commission level. So, like, I think their input is really important to have for that, and allowing them to formally meet on the 11th might be helpful for that.
Is June 15th a problem for anyone?
June 15th works for me.
I have no problem with June.
That should be okay for me too.
Any reason that doesn't work? I was just thinking that allows them to, like, formally talk about it as a whole group or.
Suggestion. Does it make sense to use the third Monday? Because you would, Concom would happen, and then,
Considering we moved like 2/3
Yeah.
of them.
Like-
like, you don't have to, yeah, I'm just wondering, because, one, you move them because holidays, if we hold those dates, and maybe it makes sense, Concom already met, or do you wanna?
I don't know, I think you're gonna find, I mean, maybe the biggest reason to move, I mean, because the third Monday is going to get closer to Christmas and New Year's in those months, so there's other months where that, but if you would like on a routine basis to be, sometimes it's been handy to be able to discuss something before Concom.
Yeah, we have done it the other way of like, oh, it's better to talk and then get them formal asked.
So if you leave it on the second Monday, then it's relatively easy, it feels like, when you get there and say, we have a reason, like we do in June, to move it to the third Monday. I think the way it works, it's informal enough that we kind of are always going to be looking to see what makes the most sense for this next couple.
As in 2027, Martin Luther King is the third Monday, President's Day is the third Monday.
Would it be advantageous if we pull together some of our thoughts about the maintenance and then forward that to you, and you could forward it to Concom
Yeah.
from their feedback? Or is that being too presumptuous?
I think all I would ask them is, this is something we've talked about, what would your input be? I'd rather almost over solicit, like just get input and then pull the list.
Okay.
Because I'm sure 3 or 4 people have the same type of thing. So just like, let everyone say the items.
Then present them with a list.
Yeah.
I-
Okay. All right, so then 6:15.
So June 15th?
Yeah.
All right.
And July, did we decide?
Yeah, that's what's going on.
I have literally nothing happening.
Well, so for now, we're standing with the traditional.
It would be the 13th as the second.
Okay.
Subject to change.
Yeah, so I think maintain 7:13 for now. Further thoughts, communication, coordination?
The year's gone by fast.
I know, right?
It really feels like this is starting to get more concrete to me now. This is.
Was there anything on town staff updates that on the agenda? Is there anything that you?
Kind of talk about like relevant peers, like the wayfinding,
Oh, okay.
contractors, so
Got
we
it.
touch upon most of the items.
Okay.
Goes through really great. Oh, just, you could just do a quick motion to endorse a letter of support for that, so in case they want to see support from a board.
So moved.
Second?
Right.
And yeah, if you just want me to sign that whenever.
Perfect. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Who did the first one? Was it you?
Yeah.
I think it's next to the,
It's to the left side.
Oh, yeah.
it says, hold it, it says see you. See you.
They don't come up and show.
So there's a little.
Oh,
Press
I
that.
pressed that, yeah.
It says see you.
I didn't know where I was looking. Didn't know when to speak.
That was like homework, but it's like, all right, if you were going
Refer to
to read a couple of things,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like,